Multifamily Mindset
Podcast. Think bigger.
Welcome to the Multifamily Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Rucker, coach here at the Multifamily Mindset, and here with an awesome guest that I've had plenty of time to spend to get to know, call a friend, and love to just brainstorm with him. So I'm excited for our listeners today to get to hear from our awesome guest. And with that, Johannes Kramlet is our guest today. Welcome, and super excited to dive into our conversation. Welcome to the Multifamily Mindset Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Zach Rucker, and today I am have the pleasure of having our other co-host, Mr. Kyle Brown, on with us today. And we have a special episode for you guys where we're going to interview each other. And you guys get to know a little bit about who is Kyle and who is Zach. That's been behind the mic here at the podcast, MFM Podcast. And so, yeah, Kyle, I'm excited.
Yeah. This is going to be a great time.
I haven't done this before. Yeah.
No. I mean, for all the time that we've known each other, I don't think we've really taken the time to really ask these questions with each other, really kind of see how it leads up into, coaching and how it affects our business. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's crazy. What you've been working with MFM for, is it over a year now?
Just over a year. Yeah. We just got to a year and a month.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know anything about you, Kyle. So that's a fail on my end. That we've been underwriting partners, and all we do is talk about numbers and deals and students. So this will be really good to get to know each other a little bit more, for sure.
Yeah. We say it's a relationship business, and I've failed at that part with Zach, one of the close relationship I probably have in this business. So.
Well, it happens sometimes when you stuck behind a spreadsheet and you nerd out a little bit. Us nerds, sometimes become socially awkward. So any of those other spreadsheet nerds out there, team athletes all the way, you guys know who you are. But with that, let's jump in. Kyle, let's get to know who is Kyle Brown. Who's the DJ voice that we hear every week.
Oh man. Well, first, I appreciate the compliment. I love hearing that, but I hate hearing my own voice. That's probably one of the hardest things about the podcast. It'll come on, I'll hear my own voice. Like, I got to skip this episode. Let me go to Zach's.
I agree with you. Yep.
But no, it's as mentioned, I'm Kyle Brown, one of the coaches here at the Multifamily Mindset, and I've been here for a little bit over a year now. Before this, I actually was working in property management for about 7 years beforehand. Just the beginning of my, college career, I started there just as a leasing agent, moved up to leasing manager, assistant property manager, and then property manager. And it was a great time. I thoroughly enjoyed it, just being able to connect with other people, show them around the apartments, really have goals in mind for, how many people we want to have living in each apartment at any time, keeping up occupancy rates, and really just following that. One of the most entertaining things about what I got to do was just being able to go check out other properties. What everybody struggles with, market research and picking a market and getting really granular as to like rental comps. I got to do that every single day. It was a ton of fun. And just, being able to collaborate with tons of different investors that came to tour the property, and even just other operators that wanted to learn more. I was able to be a professional in that own space. So that's like a real snippet of just my background and kind of where I've gone with really just the multifamily side of it. Before that, I was just doing, your odd job high schoolish stuff, beforehand. But it's been a great 7 years. I've absolutely enjoyed that. But I'm happy to be on a higher level view of that now. So definitely, as we get into it, I'm sure there's going to be more that I could jump into, just going into, the underwriting I did, the due diligence that I did while on property, and really just being able to share that with the network.
Yeah. So I do have a question like that. You said you'd go to other properties. So as a property manager, you would go essentially vet out your competition. Is that what you're doing?
1,000%. So on a weekly basis, we would do market surveys. I was in a pretty competitive market here in Orlando. So I had about 30 direct comps to my property. So I would call every single one of them, get their statistics on really what their occupancy levels were looking like, what their rental rates are currently looking like, how many tours they've taken in the last week, and really just get that granular data so I could actually refine what our market rent was. One week our market rent for an apartment was $800. The next week it was $850, and it just every single week I'd constantly test, retest, test, and just keep adjusting those rates to just make sure we're getting as high of rates as we possibly can.
Did you ever have like I guess kickback or resistance from other property managers to answer your question, like their competition, where they like, no, I'm not going to tell you unless you tell me yours, or is there anything like that?
It's funny you say that because yeah, it happens. So when you're in a very competitive market, a lot of times you'll see concessions being thrown around, but under the table. So
Hmm.
although we'll offer it to a resident or a potential prospect as soon as they come in, that's not anything we'd publicly advertise. So it's kind of like a back of the pocket closing, because I knew it was so competitive and people wanted to go to different properties. They would come to mine. And I'd say, hey, if you sign right now, I'll give you $20 off rent. Did very little to what our concessions budget was, but it gave them that extra incentive to sign with us as opposed to anywhere else, especially if it was like a slower leasing period. So when you're calling other properties, yeah, they're going to tell you some information, but sometimes they don't tell you what the actual rates are. They might tell you their standard rates. Really encourage you to come in for a tour if you're acting as a prospect, which I did very often to just try and get their under the table rents. But yeah. So a lot of the times when I would call, they know who I am, within the market. I knew the other property managers. I'd call them, be like, okay, cool. I need your numbers too. How many tours did you take? What are your rates looking like, and everything like that.
Okay. So some of it you try to pretend, probably initially you try to pretend to be a tenant, prospective tenant, but then other ones you're like, okay, you're the same manager there. I've been here. Like, let's just share the information here. Like we're on the same team, but we're not. We're against each other.
Yeah. So I actually would go in and call just as my normal self. I'm the property manager of this current complex. I'm just reaching out for a market survey. Just want to get some numbers from you guys. Usually they knew what that was. The only
Hmm.
time I ever act as a prospect or have one of my staff members act as a prospect is I'd have them call or go in for a tour. If for whatever reason, hey, they signed more contracts than us in the last week. Like I'll
Hmm.
do some analysis. Hey, they signed 30 contracts in the last week. I signed about 20. But their rates are higher than ours. What are they doing? Cool. I'm going to send somebody over to go check that out. Or I'll call in. I'll say, hey, my son, because I have a pretty deep voice, right? So even though I was younger then, I'd be, hey, my son is looking to move into, your apartment complex. Wanted to see kind of what your rates were looking like. And that's how I'd get a lot of the information.
Love it. That's awesome that you had that experience and that knowledge of just how it looks like on the ground level. I have working with property, working in property management, to then bring that over to the ownership side of how a property management company runs from the ground people, and you can connect with them and understand the work that they're doing, right? And I think that's very powerful to come from that space.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, one of my favorite asset managers that I had to relate to, he was a property manager before and had that same kind of route that I took. Right from college, was leasing agent, and then continued to move up, and then became an asset manager of several different properties within that area. And he was one of the best people to have conversations with because he understood what the day to day was like. And he understood just how hectic it can be, and some stressful things I might go through, and was able to help and give guidance. So I think that's it's extremely important, and I think that translates pretty well over into what we're doing here.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. It's very, very beneficial to have that experience because you can just, you can relate to the property management companies you're working with and be able to negotiate things better and be like, well, I know you can handle this. Like I did this. Like, duh.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where like a lot of that easy transition I think came into me getting into this space, right? So I do feel for some students is before looking into MFM, maybe they're just researching online on how to buy a multifamily apartment. Like I couldn't imagine doing that without some sort of education, either MFM or actually being in property management beforehand. It must be so tough because there's so much information thrown. Like I know I worked in property management, but I kind of want to hear about you now, Zach. Like, how did you get into this?
Hey, listeners, thank you for tuning in to the MFM podcast. We truly appreciate your support and hope you're enjoying the insights from our incredible guests. We have one small favor to ask. Please leave us a review and rating. Your feedback means the world to us. And to show you our appreciation, we're giving away some great prizes to some lucky listeners who leave us a review. So scroll down, share your thoughts, and help us continue to bring valuable content. Thanks, and back to the show. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Um, so not necessarily similar, but in college, trying to figure out life at the time. Um, thought I was going to be an engineer because I like math, but quickly found out I do not want to be an engineer. It was too complicated, and so I became the engineer dropout and go to business school. So while going to business school, I always had this feeling that I was just I had a purpose to fulfill, and I didn't know exactly what that was, but I knew it wasn't going to happen going to a corporate job, and that's for me. Now, it's other people do great and excel in that environment and do really well and super successful. For me, I just didn't see that. I just didn't see fitting into that puzzle, and so going to school, which I got mixed feelings about going to college because I feel like it's setting you up to go to the corporate world anyways. So I had a struggle there. I was just trying to figure out, what to do for um, just a career. And with that, it just pushed me to dive into deep into alternative types of things. And I, you know, started talking to people and they started talking about real estate. And I knew about fix and flipping. I had some close people that did fix and flips when I was younger, but I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get in and do all that work. That's a lot of work and a lot of risk that you're playing there. And so as I just continued to dive in and learn YouTube videos, just learning different real estate strategies, and then just networking. I met a guy at school that was started buying duplexes. And I was like, oh, I gotta follow this guy. He knows what he's doing. And so I started following him and realized multifamily was quickly what appealed to me. The scalability of it, buying a business that's cash flowing, and you renovate it. It's a fix and flip, but it's at scale and you have cash flow coming in. So it's not as risky. That appealed to me. And so I just dove in, try to find all the education I could. I did buy into some course. Unfortunately, it was more a single family Airbnb course, but they did have two videos on multifamily. And I watched those videos again and again and continued to just do my own research. So unfortunately, I didn't have MFM to speed up my process. I had to dive in and figure out all this information on my own, books, YouTube videos, podcast episodes, and so forth. So I started looking at deals. I found one. It was a duplex that was attached to an old vacant house. Uh, and so I tried to run the numbers, and it was on the market. It was listed on the market. It was being sold. A lot of people, a lot of investors passed on it. I went and toured it with an agent that focused on investments, and he's like, "Yeah, a lot of people looked at this. The owner's wanting too much. The city didn't want it to be a triplex. It wasn't zoned for a triplex, which was funny because there's 3 units on it. So the vacant house, it just had to sit vacant. It was essentially a storage unit for the owner, and it was just all junk in there. And then the duplex was rented out. The what we ended up doing is just talking to the city and convincing them to let us rezone it. And they said no to a lot of people, a lot of multiple owners of that property that tried to make it a triplex. They said no to, and we were able to convince them, say, hey, we will put money into this. Let us turn it into a triplex, and it's going to look a lot nicer. So they said yes. Come to find out, my agent was actually really upset because if he would have known that, he would have bought it, but he wasn't able to do that. And a lot of other investors were apparently upset because they tried the same thing. I guess they didn't have the right approach. And so I actually brought my dad in on that because he's an architect by trade and he was used to dealing with the city. So he easily knew how to have that conversation with them and convince them. So yeah, that's what we did. That was my first deal, was a triplex. It was a duplex. We renovated into a triplex. I lived in it for a little bit, and then sold it for and got 100% return on our money that we put into that. So it was a good deal. And from then I never looked back. From there, so sorry, that was a long story of how I got started right there. But from there, I was networking with people. So while I had that triplex, I was continuing to network, get into different investment groups on Facebook. I got on webinars of people that were doing deals. One of the guys that I was on his webinar, he reached out to me afterwards, thinking I was an investor. And I said, no, but I'm interested in getting involved in this space. I'm actually going to be, and he was in Colorado. That's where I grew up. I said, I'm actually going to be in Colorado. Do you want to meet up for lunch? So I met with him and he said they were looking for interns. And so I became an intern for this startup. They had about 300 units. They were small, but they were putting a lot of emphasis into growing their company. And I actually had to pay their underwriter to teach me how to underwrite for me to be an intern for them. So it was kind of a funny situation where I paid them to let me intern and work for free. But that's how I learned how to underwrite. He taught me how to underwrite. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I was good with spreadsheets. Well, let me tell you, people, when I underwrote these deals, I was like, yeah, I got this. Like, I've been looking at these. I got this underwriting. I got on the call to review the deal. I was way off. I was so far off, and my mind was just blown. I was like, how is this possible? Like, I know spreadsheets. This is easy. It's data entry. And so then there's the next deal. We did about 5 deals that we reviewed. It was probably more than that, but each deal I was still off. And I was like, what is going on? Come to find out, it really came down to market knowledge. And he had this knowledge that he was able to bring to the table because of his experience level. And I did have input errors, because I was just, I was learning. And that's just kind of how it started. So did acquisitions for them a little bit. And then from there, went and worked for a large multifamily owner and operator out of Colorado as well, and worked on their contract services kind of department. It's really interesting because they're a really big company, but I essentially worked with negotiating on contracts. So trash, waste management companies, um, laundry companies as well. They have these long contracts, painting. So I just worked on that and got some experience there. And then from there, jumped over to MFM when MFM started, and worked with Tyler and Ryan on their company. And I found business partners, closed on some deals. And yeah, that's, I guess, a quick summary of fast forward in it.
Wow, that's amazing. I couldn't imagine a deal that even Zach Rucker had struggles with. I think I think all of us are striving to be as proficient in underwriting as just
No.
thought of that. Just I'm quivering in my boots over here.
Hey, we all started somewhere. I even struggled to underwrite. So hopefully that gives people faith that they can get good at underwriting over time.
Yeah. I'm sure. What do you think like really helped you in this entire process in understanding underwriting and honestly just the business in general? Like at what point did you feel like, hey, I've got this multifamily thing down?
Maybe last week. I mean, no. I mean, it's ever evolving and ever, like, we're always learning in this. So, I continue to learn new things every day. Uh, when it came to getting comfortable with underwriting, there's different levels to it, um, where you get comfort from being able to utilize the template, and then you reach a point where you get different deals. You got to get more creative, and so it was all about being resourceful. For me, what really helped me though was when I built the MFM underwriting template that everyone has access to within the program. It's when I built that. That's how I got really good at underwriting, is because I went to the underwriting template I learned on, and I dove into the formulas and I figured out how he built it. And then I just translated that over and built it my own way. But that's how I did it. I'm not some Excel, like I don't know Excel super well. I tried to take a class and then I got bored and so I stopped. The way I learned was I just looked at what other people did and then I copy that in my own way and tweak it to make it work how I want to. And then just over time, I've looked at other underwriting templates. I've probably looked at a couple dozen underwriting templates and seen how they do formulas and how they calculate things. And then I just take what I like and piece it together into models I like. And so MFM is their model now is a good simple model to learn on. And that was what I think pulled from all of them is they're all complicated. And so if I simplified it, I think that made it easier and it helped me be more confident in my numbers because I knew what my business plan was.
Yeah. And it's so funny that you're saying that because honestly, with the way that I got a good grasp on underwriting, in my opinion, was doing exactly what you did, just with your template. I would sit there and I would just absolutely nerd out. And by the way, let me just mention, as for most of us, when we're taking an Excel course, we're more so confused and not bored. So for you to go through and just say, yeah, no, I'm bored. I know this advanced Excel. Like it speaks volumes. But
No. I don't know the advanced Excel. And that's probably what it was too, is I was confused. I was like, this isn't applicable right now. I'm bored. Like I just want to just do the work, right? Um, so I made the mistake by not going through the courses. Maybe it could be a better template if I went through the courses. Yeah, who knows?
who knows? Everybody would be on the lookout for the underwriting template what would this be? 3.8 on the next one, right? So that would be,
yeah.
yeah. Well, so one thing you had mentioned earlier too is that you were looking in, like, you didn't get through some of those earlier deals due to market research, right? You didn't really know enough about the market. And knowing what I know now, I can relate to that pretty heavily. But more so, just walk us through a little bit, like what is your opinion on like the market research aspect? Because there's somebody that's usually dedicated to sourcing the deal, someone dedicated to underwriting it. They could wear both hats, but how do you really get really in key with that market research? How did you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think it's 100% critical to underwriting deals effectively and quickly and efficiently. It's knowing your market, your numbers, and the best way to do that is doing market research. An easy way for an underwriter, because a lot of people are like, well, when do you know when your market research is done? Honestly, it's never done. There's always new things going on in the market. You got to understand and know. But in terms of underwriting, it's really gathering a few key points. And one of that is talking to a property management company. So talking to someone like you when you're running your property, you have probably had a good sense of how your expenses ran, where your expenses were, where your budget was. You knew how much you were spending there. You work with someone like that, a property management company that's doing this day in, day out. They have budgets, they have numbers, they know how to run these properties, they know the expenses that they're going to be spending. So start there. They know that market. So use your resources instead of trying to do all the research yourself. Use your resources to gather information, and that single-handedly, just with the property management company, can make your underwriting so much faster and easier just with that one contact.
Yeah, I agree with that. Being from the property management background, there is so many like nuances and caveats, like how I could just reduce our expense ratio a little bit. And this is actually, it's not my idea. This was back when I was an assistant property manager. My property manager at the time, we actually had we were paying a lot on landscaping compared to on average where the rest of the market was at. One of the reasons being is that we had a retention pond in the back, and they would have to go out there in that retention pond with a little like boat and start spraying around there to kill off like the plants that were overgrown and everything like that. And they were just growing out from the center, and they're just coming up through the center of the retention pond, and we wanted to make sure that got taken care of. One way that a property manager actually was able to take care of that and extremely reduced the amount we paid on that landscape because we had that additional service, was that she put tilapia in the retention pond and it would actually eat at the plants there. And we never had that problem again. And we
Wow.
would restock, I think it was maybe every other year or so. I can't remember exactly on a restocks, but it was just those little nuances, right? So property management companies, no, I don't think they'll be able to give you something like that on every single one. Man, yeah, definitely be able to utilize those resources as best as you can because those are you find some pretty funny things sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Hey, way to be creative. That was smart. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So I mean that's the key there, right? Is you utilize your resources. Be resourceful.
Yeah, 100%. Now, with that too, and I don't want to, drag this, situation out too long, but there's a lot of people who feel uncomfortable as they're going through and wanting to talk to some of these property management companies because they haven't closed on a deal. How did you get over that at first, right? Without having really a whole company behind you that you've already closed on so many X, Y, and Z deals. What was your aspect in getting that conversation going with the property management company?
Yeah, I mean it's really going back to just networking 101. You're calling and you're just trying to build a relationship with someone. That's what it is. And so, you know, one, you got to dial in your market, what market you want to focus on. And then from there you find the right property management companies. If you can get referrals, even better. But you're just calling them and saying, "Hey, I'm looking to buy apartments in this area. I'm looking for some guidance. I don't have a whole lot of experience in this market. And so I just want to get a good grasp of, hey, I'm looking at 50 to 100 unit properties. What is your expenses for those types of properties? They might be like, well, you know, 50 to 75 is one, but then once you go past that, it's going to be a different expense. Once you get up to 75, 80, things are going to change a little bit. And so getting that guidance as well helps. But you go to them and give them your criteria of the types of properties you're looking for. Hey, I'm looking for, I'm doing a value add plan. So 1980s and newer types of properties, looking to renovate them, in this area. What expenses do you typically have? And they're going to have a different like different cities, right? I'm in Utah. And so I contacted a property management company and essentially I contacted the Salt Lake City headquarter people. And I said, yeah, I'm looking for some in Provo, which is just an hour and a half south or an hour south. They still had someone that they sent me over to that was more regional to that. They give me more specific numbers on how they're operating in that specific area. And so that helped me already set myself up. So when I underwrite deals, I know exactly how this property management is going to run that property. And I mean, it was simple. I get nervous calling people. And so when I say it's simple, it is simple. I still had nerves calling them, and I still do. If I go dial up a property management company, I still get nervous. Uh, that's just my little social, issue I have. But it's just having a conversation with them, and they're more than happy to share that information because they want your business. So they're more than happy to share how they're operating properties in their structure. Um, yeah, I mean, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, for sure. I know that will help tons of people out. And you, as a property manager, I had the conversations actually with potential investors, people looking around in the market. You would sometimes have full cars of people come out to tour our property and they're doing a bunch of tours around. They're going to ask you questions about the market. It was a lot of fun because at that time I'd look at them as like a potential employer, right? Hey, what if they buy the property down the street? Like
Yeah.
these, and that was always just the best. A chance to impress. I'm gonna give you absolutely everything you want to know about the market because I want to impress you and I want you to hire me for more money down the street. Um,
Hmm.
it's always great to see that, and it's just fun to see how it all connects now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really key. And I've definitely noticed that when I've talked to property managers like on site about their deals, you find out who are the good ones because they'll try to impress you and they'll give you all the good information. And then the other ones are just like, ooh, okay. Yeah, we're going to bring in a new property management company and manager on this deal. So that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, now, with that, I know we're just running down to the last couple of minutes here, just for this one, but really last, I wanted to kind of leave off with is, what are your plans now as a new student getting into, this sector? Always we're just looking at that first deal, right? But now as an experienced investor in this space, what are your next plans that you think that you're going to be attacking moving forward? Do you already have that planned out?
That's a great question. This really kind of goes into partnerships and who your partners are and aligning with them and creating that plan. So, you know, don't go at this alone. If you're alone, find business partners, but also be slow to connect with those business partners. Make sure you guys align with core values. I've gone through partnerships and got into a partnership really quick and we didn't all align on core values. We found that out after a year. So we were already in the legal matters. And so we had to split that off and start anew. And, a couple of years with a partnership and being aligned with core values, direction of the company, things change over time. And so it's continuing to touch base and make sure you guys are aligned with things to move forward and partnerships come and go, and that's okay. It does suck when you do spend a lot of time and effort with one partnership and you grow things, but it's all a learning. And I say this all the time, and I'm sure Dallas says this too. He says, fail forward, and I look at there is no failure. It's just learnings. So throughout this we're always learning, and that's how I look at it. Is partnerships come and go. That's the beauty of this industry is we get to work with so many different partners. Every deal, there's new partners. And so you're always looking at opportunities of who fits best with you, who aligns with you, and working through that. So for me, it's, still figuring that next piece out of, we've closed on some deals this year with some of my business partners. And now it's looking at what's next, what's coming for 2025. And opportunities there. And so I'm always on the lookout for new partnerships and new deals that are coming my way, whether it's multifamily or other asset classes, like always the opportunities are open. I think that's just the entrepreneur lifestyle is we're always looking at opportunities, even looking at, buying a business, it's another type of business in a different sector. There's always just opportunities that we're looking at. So I know it's kind of vague, but that's kind of where plans are at right now is we'll see how 2025 pans out this year. Just going to finish off the year, kind of, just building MFM up and creating some new stuff for our students. So those that are students, like be on the lookout. We're creating some awesome new material for you guys to help you take it to the next level. And so that's where a lot of focus is going right now. Kind of just closing out the year there. We just closed on a deal here almost 2 months ago. And so, just tackling our deals and then we'll see what 2025 does.
Yeah. Yeah. So huge learning lesson there is just understanding like we learn together always and just continue pushing on. And it's nothing that we're doing alone. We're always working with other people and continuing to cultivate those relationships with others to maybe create potential business partnerships in the future. So, I mean, that's amazing. And let it be on record that Zach Rucker beat me to that deal that he closed on. And that's what I get for not knowing him and not creating that relationship to be on that together. But it's all fun and games. I'm glad we're looking at the same things and excited to see what's to come.
Yeah. So what I'll flip that question back on you. What's to come for you?
Actually, part of that comes to exactly what we're working on here in MFM. I've been pretty focused on this new build out on what we're doing for our students. And I truly, to my heart, believe that it's going to benefit them in the best way possible. And I'm really just excited to put that into action. I know right now I'm putting in, tons of hours in terms of focusing and planning it out and making sure we could try to make a very efficient system for our students. But man, I wish I could talk about it right now, actually. But I know I would definitely get yelled at. That'll be coming in the future. But that's my main goal right now is to I want to make sure that our students, have a better understanding of what this space is about, how to collaborate with each other and utilize each other, even though everybody is starting to learn right now, how we can best utilize each other to get to our goals, achieve that financial freedom that you're looking for, or that new business that you're wanting to build. And I'm just outright excited, just making sure all my students can really get it done. I will just really quick add this on. I love when students are like, "Oh, thank you, Kyle, for helping me out with the underwriting or the market research or whatever it might be, or investor relations tips on a specific deal," because I had nothing to do with it. Realistically, it's like I show them where to find the information, and all of a sudden they think they can thank me for it when realistically it's all them. And I'm just so pumped to hopefully be hearing that a lot more with this new system build out.
Yeah, definitely a lot of awesome opportunities coming down the pipeline. And I guess I'll end with just a last tip for our listeners is network with people, because you never know who your next partner is going to be. Maybe it's me, maybe it's Kyle, maybe it's Tyler. You don't know until you just open your mouth and you network with people that are always looking for new partners on deals and put things together. And with that, even, I hear this from a lot of students that come into this space and they're like, why would I connect with other people that are just learning? Well, do you know their experience? Do you know their backstory? Do you know what resources that they have access to? You don't know until you connect with them. I know plenty of people in this space, in this network, that have construction backgrounds, that have single family fix and flip backgrounds, that have banking backgrounds, that have property management backgrounds, that worked in IT and have really good skills at setting up systems or working with technology. You got people that are good at marketing. You have so many different backgrounds and experiences that aren't even related to real estate, but they apply to partnerships. So why connect with other people? Is because you don't know the resources that they have access to, and if you would align with them. So connect with people, whether they're new or experienced, because they could be your next partner and they could get you one step further, right? And then you find another partner and they get you another step further. And we use each other to create win-win situations. So that's just my biggest advice to people is whether they're new or experienced, you connect with people, because they could be an investor. You just don't know who you're connecting with until you get to know them a little bit more. And that goes for me too. I can be better at that and connecting with more people too. So reach out to me. Hopefully I'll be reaching out more too and connect with people.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for that. Well, you did the intro. I'll go ahead and hit this outro here. I appreciate everybody for listening into this episode of the Multifamily Mindset Podcast. We'd love to do more of these, and you guys can just subscribe, share, leave us a comment, reach out to us on Facebook. Let us know if you like this or not. I don't know as far as you, Zach, but I would love to continue doing something like this and just,
Yes, sir.
talking over some different knowledge facts or just other people to learn about.
Yep, let's do it. Let's keep doing it. Please, listeners, please give us some feedback. Let us know how these are going. If there's specific topics you guys want us to dive in deep, maybe Kyle and I will come back and we'll dive in deep to specific topics for you guys. So please let us know and give us feedback, and hopefully we'll hear you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Multifamily Mindset Podcast. Think bigger.